talk a little bit about Yuji's role as Sukuna's vessel. But before we go on, I gotta give a quick spoiler warning, so if you're not caught up with the manga, keep scrolling. Questions today are brought to us by Thomas, who wants to know if Kenjaku intentionally made Yuji an anti-Sukuna vessel, and why is Sukuna trying to merge Tengen with Japan? Thomas, thank you for the support, man. Let's get into it. First of all, did Kenjaku intentionally make Yuji a prison for Sukuna? Absolutely yes. Now, we don't know why specifically, but that man has been deviously plotting for over 1,000 years. Nothing he does is an accident or by coincidence. I mean, I really don't think I need to explain just the level of commitment Kenjaku has when it comes to getting done what needs to get done. Kenjaku's entire life's work has been about learning, and over that 1,000-year period, there came a point where he basically had seen all there was to see, and at that point, he had to elevate it a step further, which is where this merger plan comes into play. Kenjaku really wants to see what the evolution of humanity, of cursed energy, could really be. And the motivation for that is purely just, curiosity, it seems like. Kenjaku just wants to see what would happen. I wonder what that form would look like. So over a lifetime of experimenting and plotting and moving chess pieces on the board, Kenjaku ultimately reached a point where he needed a piece like Yuji. He needed leverage over Sukuna, because as we know, Kenjaku needed Sukuna to protect him from Gojo. And Sukuna is selfish, right? He doesn't care about Kenjaku. So Kenjaku needed leverage to make that the case. Now, this is somewhat speculation on my point because this has never been explicitly explained, but we do know that Sukuna and Kenjaku have binding vows with each other. And again, speaking to Sukuna's selfishness, he wouldn't just do this out of, the good of his heart. However, what's interesting to think about is if Yuji has a role beyond just being a cage for Sukuna, which I personally am leaning yes. Now, we have this conversation between Choso and Kenjaku where Choso asks, "What are your plans with Yuji?" And Kenjaku says he doesn't have a specific role. You could say his role was just being a vessel, and that's already in place. And the obvious context to take from this is he's referring to Yuji's role as a vessel for Sukuna. However, I think he's burying the plot here, because I don't think he wants anyone else to know his true plans. I mean, obviously, right? He's pulling the strings in the background. Only he knows the true master plan. So I think it could be possible that Yuji is still an integral role in the merger itself. Like perhaps he is the vessel for the merger, and Kenjaku is kind of double speaking here. And this segues nicely into the second half of your question. Why would Sukuna want to start the merger? There's basically two reasons as far as I see it. And the first one is he might not have a choice. Like we were just talking about, Kenjaku and Sukuna have binding vows together, and one of them may very well be that should Kenjaku get taken out, Sukuna needs to finish what he started. As we even saw Kenjaku himself say, "My will be inherited." We now know that this was referring to this moment. I really don't think, again, somebody as smart and devious as Kenjaku would leave his plan just up to fate should something happen to him. He would definitely have contingencies in place, and we're seeing one right here. So I think, again, Sukuna may not have a choice, but the second reason is that he probably wants to just to see what would happen himself. He lived back 1,000 years ago, destroyed everyone that, even tested him, and then decided to make himself a cursed object so he could traverse through time and then hopefully one day be reborn and find new people to play with, which he essentially has done here. And after taking out Gojo, there's really no one interesting left. So just like he said at the end of the next chapter, I'm going to take everyone out here, going to take everyone out in the culling game, and then I'm going to do the merger just to play with that thing. So he's probably just looking for a way to ease his boredom, hoping that whatever that merger will become will be something to test his strength, let him have a good time with.